Hello and welcome to Called Bank Sports. Let's see if I can edit this. I forgot to do the right camera, so sorry about this. This is not going to be as good as I would have liked it to be. I'm going to redo the intro here in a second, and sorry about the camera. I really hate that YouTube does not let you make the changes after you start the stream. So, oops. Okay. Gonna redo the intro here in a second, and then I'll be looking at a different camera for the first couple minutes, but leave questions in the chat. So let's go. Hello, and welcome to this postcast for Called Bank Sports. The Utah Jazz beat the Atlanta Hawks tonight in Atlanta by a score of 116-98. And I really only have one thing to say for this: Jordan Clarkson. And while I feel like we can end it there, there's definitely a lot more to talk about. But Jordan Clarkson broke out of his shooting slump that he's had the last couple games and continued to have the first half of this game. And he scored 30 points, 4 of 10 from three, which is great. I do think something that's often overlooked by Jazz fans is that Jordan Clarkson really isn't that good of a three-point shooter. He's all right, but last year he shot about 34.7% from three. So definitely not up there around, the 39-40% of Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell, and then up into the 40s of Joe Ingles. But he brings a lot of energy off the bench, and he is still able to hit those threes. So these last few games have been rough. Jazz really needed him to not be in a slump against the Bulls, but that's still the one loss they have, as the Jazz have moved on to 7-1 on the year. So for Jordan Clarkson to break out of his slump, bring the Jazz back into the game in the third quarter, and extend that lead in the fourth really helped the Jazz, as they were without Donovan Mitchell tonight due to him resting for, I believe, a right ankle sprain. I'm not entirely sure how long he'll be out on that, if it was more of a precautionary rest, but hopefully he'll be back against the Heat on Saturday, though I wouldn't entirely expect that to happen. So that was my biggest takeaway from the game, is Jordan Clarkson breaking out of his slump, and I'm sure that's everyone else's. The Jazz, after a terrible first half, only putting up 39 points, almost doubled up that score in the second half, finishing with 116 and scoring 41 points, I believe, in the fourth quarter. So they outscored their first half score in the fourth quarter, which just goes to show the night and day difference really between the first 2.5 quarters of this game and the last quarter and a half. So that big switch leaves me hopeful that the Jazz are going to be hitting their threes again as they go into this weekend stretch, starting with the Miami Heat on Saturday, who are probably the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. You can debate that come playoff time, but right now the Heat is the scariest team in the Eastern Conference. And speaking of the Jazz upping their three-point shots, they were finally able to hit over 40+% of their shots from three. I think they ended at 41.5%. So that was really big for them. They've been shooting less than 33% on the season, and they definitely got a bit of a bump tonight. But as they move on into the season, I think everyone was expecting the Jazz to increase their percentage, but the league has been down as a whole. So I'll be interested to see where they end up leveling out this year. It's going to take some really good games to get that average back up to around 39-40% with how dismal the first 7 games of the year were. Whiteside continues to stay in the positive. I think he was barely in the negative last game against the Kings, but he was in the positive tonight and really has just helped the Jazz tremendously as he anchors their defense in the second unit. And you're going to hear a lot about Whiteside this year. I loved Favors, but he definitely wasn't as solid defensively as we would have liked. I mean, that is comparing him to Rudy Gobert, but Whiteside, again, there's some caveats in this game. The Hawks did just play in Brooklyn last night and had to fly down to Atlanta while the Jazz were coming in on a long flight, but with a day's rest. So at some point, though, the Jazz are winning. And that's currently my take. They've definitely had some luck, and their first 8 games of the year haven't been the cleanest, and they haven't played the toughest competition. And they did lose their hardest game of the year against the Bulls. But 7-1 is still a very impressive start there. The Jazz are definitely on pace and looking to possibly push for 60 games this year. I don't think that's going to happen, but I mean, 7-1 is about as good of a start as you could have expected for the Jazz this year. So it's been an exciting first approximately 10% of games that the Jazz have played for their season. So, and then my final couple of takeaways are the Jazz only had 14 turnovers this game, which is still more than I want to see. But 10 of those came in the atrocious first half, and 4 of them came in the second half. So obviously, when you're making shots and getting shots off early in the clock, it's going to be a lot easier to get those to get turnovers down. But the Jazz were able to do it this game, and hopefully they can continue that. I still expect to see relatively high turnovers from them just after last year, and that really never coming down the whole season. But if that's able to come down, that will greatly increases the number of games the Jazz win, and honestly really increase their differential, and just when they're able to pull their starters in the fourth quarter. The turnovers are a really big deal, and obviously when the Jazz are pushing the ball, they're able to score more points, so those can counteract each other. But just decreasing that and keeping the pace is obviously the most ideal situation the Jazz could be in. And then last but not least, the Jazz had 30 assists tonight, which is a lot for them. They assisted on almost 75% of their made field goals on 30 of the 41, and Mike had 11 assists. So frankly, just an absolutely astounding game for Mike tonight and Clarkson. And then, you had Bogey with 23. So overall, really good game. It's a lot easier to say that with how good the fourth quarter was for the Jazz. There were definitely a lot of miscues in the first quarter, but the solid defense that the Jazz played for the whole game allowed them to make it until their offense finally kicked in, and partway in the third, but most definitely in the fourth quarter. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're on the live stream over on a site that some places we post this will not let me say for some reason, we'll continue on here in a minute. And if you're watching this recorded, you can go over to what's probably the most popular video site and catch the rest of the stream. And please come and join us after a lot of the games this year. So please follow us wherever you're at. Please leave a like on the video wherever you're at, and please share the video with your friends as we continue to bring you Utah Jazz content. So great win over the Hawks tonight, and go Jazz. Okay, if you're on the live stream, please leave a comment or anything in the live chat if there's anything that you want to talk about. I'm going to be ending another video I'm recording here really quick, and then we'll get to the chat and we'll see where we go. Okay, here we go. Then sorry about the awkward camera angle. I thought I had changed the one on YouTube, but apparently I had not. So Will Jensen, hey, if you want to chat, Will, let me know. So this was honestly a really good game. I know I just chatted about it a decent amount, but the Jazz have really struggled these first 8 games of the year, personally. That's my personal opinion. And I think that that's backed up with their 3-point shooting. Sorry, Will. We will post that video in other places. So we don't end the stream, but we do end the first 8-minute kind of recap. So we can post that other places and have a more concise version. But the stream's going to go on as long as, the 2 people watching keep it going. So hopefully I'm not up till midnight, but if we have that good of a chat, it'll be worth it. But yeah, 3-point shooting significantly improved for the Jazz tonight. Assists went up, which I do think had a lot to do with Donovan not playing. Now, there's definitely pros and cons there. Like, Donovan's going to put up a lot of unassisted points. So I think the Jazz should take that as they will. But I do want to see overall the assists increase. But again, at 7-1, not a lot to complain about. 538, I think, has been really interesting to watch. After the Jazz beat the Kings, their projected record went from 56-26 to 57-25. And after winning tonight, the projected record went to 58-24. So super interesting to see the Jazz continue to inch up to the projected record, at least per 538, of 60-22. Again, I don't think the Jazz are going to make it there. I think they're going to have some slumps here. They'll drop a few games in a row like they always do. But when you're looking at a difference between the Jazz at 58-24 projected record and the Suns at 50-23, tied with the Nuggets for the 2 seed, that's a big jump and makes me feel really good about the Jazz ending with the 1 seed. So Will Jensen said in chat, yeah, the fact that all these players struggling to start the season and we're still 7-1 shows how good this team is. It really does. And I think we do have to note that the Jazz have had a lot of luck defending the 3. So that's definitely been because of their solid defense and because Mike and Donovan have been playing so well defensively, but also just luck. So the 3-point shot's going to come up this year, and hopefully the Jazz's shot goes up with it as well. And that leads the Jazz to be able to pull it out. I keep looking at the wrong camera. And Will brought up the fact that we still don't have Rudy Gay yet. And frankly, I don't know if we're going to see Rudy Gay this year. Obviously, it doesn't matter how early we see him per se, since really the goal is to have him during the playoffs, come May and June. But it is really important for the Jazz to get him into the rotation and be able to have that success. Like, as much as Trent Forrest has been playing his heart out, and same with Jared Butler and same with Eric Pascal, Rudy Gay has shown a lot of success, especially on the scoring end, over his time in the league. And being able to have him replace those, name just left my mind, those Niang minutes, is going to be a really big boost to this team that I'm super excited to see. Well, thank you, Will, so much for tuning in, and thanks for everyone who's listening. Really appreciate all of you guys. And okay, so Will has another question. Do you think that adjusting to the new Wilson ball has dropped percentages on threes this year? That's a really interesting question, and I feel like you can't write it out. The thing is, I feel like if it truly was, players would be talking about it more. And players really aren't talking about the Wilson ball at all. I feel like that was more of a media narrative brought up, which when you're looking for explanations, like, yeah, that's a really good one. But I'm interested how much of it has to do with still having a shorter off season, having the Olympics, so you had a decent amount of players get less rest than they've been getting, and then also just the change in foul calls, leading to players kind of adjusting their shot. It could be the ball, but I think there's way too much of a variation. And if I remember correctly, the last time the NBA changed the ball and the players felt like it was impacting their game, there were a lot of complaints about the ball. So the fact that there really aren't complaints about the ball leads me to believe that it doesn't really have anything to do with the ball, and more just kind of a weird mix of the changing officiating and a short off season and the Olympics. But we'll see. I mean, I'm expecting 3-point percentages to come back up. Maybe they're not going to go back up to 40 plus, because if defenders feel like they can defend better and closer, that's going to be a lot less of an issue. They're going to be able to get up into players more, and it's going to be harder to get open looks. And it makes me wonder how many times defenders just weren't closing out to the level that they ideally should, just so that they didn't end up having the player at the last second, jump to the right and shoot a shot, or jump to the left, or flail backwards, or, pull the Trae Young and James Harden. And I mean, let's be honest, Donovan Mitchell. Since he's done that, not nearly as much as those other two and Chris Paul, but I mean, if you wanted to be a good guard in the league, that's what you did. So nothing crazy there. Okay. Well, if there's not any more questions, it's been awesome. It's been an awesome chat and live stream tonight. Please join us Saturday after the Heat game. Really hoping Donovan's going to be back, and we will be live streaming that one. And yeah, thank you guys so much. And Will, I do definitely agree with you on that rule change. I think it's changed the league for the better, and things are going to get a bit more back to normal. They might give a few more fouls, and as I'm assuming they were intentionally harsh at the beginning of the year, but it's never going to go back to the I'm just throwing the ball towards the rim just to make it to the line. So I agree with that. And thank you guys so much, and go Jazz.